Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another in the series of instructional videos for your AIS project. For this video, first of all, it's going to be quite short, and the focus of it is setting up the inventory prices for the inventory items that you're going to sell. Now, as a precaution, do not do this particular task until you have done two things. One, you have completed the data entry for your customers. And two, you have completed the data entry for your inventory items using Appendix 4. So if you have not done those two, do not, let me repeat, do not start this task. All right, so assuming that you have completed the data entry for customers and assuming you have completed the data entry for your inventory items, we can now go ahead to set up the pricing. Now, I have on screen the project instructions, and I am going to be zooming in on this particular section, which you're now looking at. Now, it says here under the inventory heading, the valuation method to be used is FIFO, which I confirmed for you in the instructions for setting up the inventory balances. But then the next note says there are three. This is supposed to be three. There are three pricing levels: retail pricing, wholesale pricing, and a special discount for educational institutions. So what this means is that depending on which customer you're dealing with, the price that you're going to charge them when you sell your goods to them will differ. So it means, therefore, that you're going to have to set up these instructions on the system and tag the customers to make sure that the customers that are retail customers are tagged as retail customers and therefore will attract the respective pricing. So quickly before we leave this document, retail pricing with a markup of 100%. So what this means is that whatever the product costs, you're going to double it. So if it costs $10, you're going to sell it for $20. For wholesale pricing, whatever the retail price is, if you have a wholesale customer, 10% of that retail price will be removed as a discount. So if it was priced for $20, that means $2 will come off as the 10%, and they're only charged $18. So it's 10% of the retail price. If, however, you're dealing with a school and you have two of them in your project, UWI and UTech, those two institutions get a 20% discount. And you can very well imagine why. The 20% of $20 is $4. So $4 will come off as a discount, and they only pay $16. All right, so now that we're clear on this, I'm going to remove myself from this page, and then I want to go to the next document, which is very important, which is Appendix 2. Now, at the bottom of Appendix 2 is a legend, and the legend tells you that there are three customer types which tie in with the three pricing levels. Any customer that is labeled 1 as a customer type should be wholesale customers. Customers labeled as customer type 2 will be retail, and customers labeled educational will be labeled 3. So we don't even have to move screen. Here we are. Here are only 2 educational customers, UWI and UTech. So in column E on screen, it will give you a guide as to, excuse me, give you a guide as to what customer type applies to which customer. So you are going to need to be referencing to this piece of paper as you do your pricing. All right, so let us now jump into Sage and see how this pricing will be done. Now, we're going to go to the main menu bar, select the word option. Now, because these are default prices, meaning they apply across the board, we're going to click default information as the option on the drop-down list. Then by doing so, there's another drop-down list, and we're going to select from this inventory items. The tab that we're interested in is the one to the end, which is the pricing levels. And notice that there are 10 possible pricing levels. So we are only going to be using the first 3. So I'm clicking on the box with the red tick to disable those pricing levels that we're not going to need. So right now we only need 3. For pricing level 1, I'm going to call it retail. For pricing level 2, I'm going to call it wholesale. And pricing level 3, educational. Now notice to the right the phrase no calculation. So let's go ahead now. We know what the calculations would be, so let's click on edit. So for the retail pricing, we're going to use as a base the last cost. So once we select that, it opens up the field to the right, and we want to select the option that says increase by %, and we're increasing it by 100. We will be rounding to the next dollar. Click OK. So in the default calculation, where previously you saw the phrase no calculation, what you're now seeing is a default calculation for retailing, which is using the last cost and doubling it. Now let's look at wholesale. With wholesale, the base against which we're computing it will be the retail price. And we're going to be decreasing by %, and we're reducing by 10%. We're rounding to the next dollar. And so we have completed wholesale. Now, interestingly, look at the default calculation. It refers to price level 1, which is a retail. And now we're multiplying it by 90% of the cost because of that 10% reduction. And lastly, for educational, the base is again retail. We're decreasing by %, and this time it's 20. We're rounding to the next dollar, and we're clicking OK. So once we have done these default calculations for prices, we click OK, and that completes that section. Now, the next thing that you're going to do to complete this part is to activate the item prices. So to do so, we go back to the main menu. We click on the word maintain, go down the drop-down arrow, drop-down list, and go to item prices. Now this is a filter selection screen, and what we're trying to do is to pick up all item classes equal to stock items. So we're now telling the system, listen, pull from the database all the stock items that are there. So this is why it's important that you complete the data entry for your inventory items, because if you don't do that, then you're going to have to be repeating this step. All right? And we all want to be very efficient. So notice now that it has pulled up on this pop-up window all the items, so I can scroll through. Now I have not added all of my inventory items, just the few that I demonstrated on the inventory video. But notice what's going to happen now. I want to focus on the central section of this window, and I want to highlight the button that says Levels Default Calculation. Because remember, when we went to options, what we selected next from that drop-down list was default information. So we want default calculation. So once we do that, we are saying to the system, hey, we set up some default pricing, so use that to price all the inventory items that are now there. So once we select this button, there's a final step, but to bring to your attention before we click that button, everything down here, retail, wholesale, educational, these are the three we set up. Once we click Recalc on the main menu, look at what happens. It now clearly gives the pricing, the different pricing for every single inventory item that you posted, and it did it in a millisecond. So this is the final cost that came over on Appendix 4 for each of your items. Then for retail customers, you're going to double that. So 7,463 multiplied by 2 is 14,926. This 13,434 is a 10% discount of retail, and this 11,941 is a 20% off retail. So please double check it to confirm for yourself. So once we've clicked Recalc and the system has updated the database with the new pricing, we click Save and Close. All right, so we've created the default prices. We have activated them with that last step, and now we're going to tag the customers, because using the guide on Appendix 1, we can now go ahead and tag the customers. Now to the right of my window, you'll see that I only have 2 customers, Advanced Integrated Systems and BML. So I'm going to jump into my Excel sheet, Appendix 2, to see what customer types I have for them. So Advanced Integrated System has customer type 1, and Business Management Limited also has customer type 1. So let us go now and label them. So we're going to start with AIS and double click on it to go to that customer. We want the sales info tab. So here's the sales info tab. Now down here are the pricing levels, and the pricing level, once we decide that, will be the one that relates to Advanced Integrated Systems. So remember now, the wholesale was pricing level. Let's check. The wholesale was customer type 1. Let's go down to the legend and check. There it is. Wholesale was customer type 1. Okay, we've confirmed what it's supposed to be. Let's go back over to Sage and sort that out. Now, as a precaution, all the customers that you have entered, Sage assumes them retail. All right. But so therefore, what you're going to really have to change are the customers are the customers that are labeled wholesale and educational. So let us make AIS wholesale. Then we're going to save, and then we're going to close. Well, let's go to new. Okay, we have a choice. We can click new, and it wipes the screen. Then you have to go back and select BML from the home page, or once you've clicked save, you can use the directional arrow to go to the next record, which for me is just one more record, and that is BML. So here, having clicked that directional arrow, let me show you again. I click the directional arrow, it jumps to the next customer. So again, as I said, it assumes automatically that all customers are retail, which makes sense. But then BML is wholesale. Then I'm going to save and close because this is the only two. I only have 2 customers on my database. So that completes setting up the prices. As I said, it's a very short video. And reminding you where the source of the information was. It came from the project instructions under the inventory heading. And we have 3 pricing structures. And you're given what the pricing rules were. Then we went to the customer listing to confirm which customers relate to which pricing level. Then we went to Sage, and we went to options to set up the pricing levels. So we went options, default information, inventory, and then we went to the pricing levels to set up. We disabled all the remaining 7 because we only needed 3 out of the 10 pricing levels. So once we completed that, we closed the window. Then we had to activate the prices. So we went to maintain item prices, and then we use this filter to pull all the stock items in our database. And then we selected this button, the default calculation. Then we clicked recalculate, and that it brought up all the prices in the database. Then we saved and we closed. Now the last step was to go and tag all your customers. I only tagged 2 because these are the only 2 that I have. So when I double click on the customers on the right, it brings up their account, and we go to sales info at the bottom to select and assign the correct pricing level. And that's it. All right. So please make sure that at the end of this exercise, you have tagged all of your customers. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you and have a good day.